Shri Krishna Janmashtami ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In glorification of Lord Sri Krishna on his appearance day, first, let's start with some tattva before we go to Leela. Both tattva, the science of Krishna, and his pastimes are important. Both are kirtan. Kirtan doesn't simply mean singing. Kirtan also means talking about Krishna, repeating Krishna's instructions. When we go to the 8th chapter of the first canto, we find a very memorable and insightful presentation by Kunti Devi. She's enunciating brilliantly the science of the Supreme, but she does it so humbly, you may not realize that. She presents herself as not learned, but actually she's speaking the most profound wisdom. And we're going to focus particularly on her prayers about Krishna's appearance, how Krishna's appearance in this world can be so bewildering, baffling. You know how Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if you can understand the transcendental mystery, the tattva of his divine appearance and activities in this world, then upon giving up the present body, you don't take another material body. But that's not all. You go to Krishna, Mameti. Krishna bewilders people. They wonder, if he's human, how can he be omniscient? And if he takes birth, apparently, he appears. You're celebrating his appearance day today. That Krishna appears means, how can he be eternal? So many paradoxes and apparent contradictions. Kunti Devi, before offering her prayers of glorification of Krishna, clarifies that Krishna is not a product of the material world. Namasye Purusham Twajam Ishvara Prakriti Param Alaksham Sarvabhutanam Anta Bahir Avastitam. I offer my respectful obeisances not to any ordinary personality, but to the original person who is the controller of the material energy and never touched by the material energy. He's inside and outside everything, yet he's invisible to everyone. So she clarifies the tattva before she begins her prayers. She begins talking about the mystery of Krishna's appearance in text 29. She says, "Oh Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes. They appear to be human and are apparently misleading. You don't favor anyone. You don't envy anyone. In their imagination, people think that you're partial. So this Nara Leela, the human-like pastimes of Krishna, cause confusion because sometimes he's acting exactly like a human being, but meanwhile, he has no contact with the material energy and there's no tinge of material contamination. So she then expresses paradoxes. Janma karma cha vishvatma. O soul of the universe, how is it that you're unborn, yet you take birth? How is it that you're inactive, yet you do things? What's going on here? Not only that, but Tiryan Nishishu Yadasu Tadadyanta Vidambanam. You appear amongst the animals, human beings, sages, and even aquatics. So she's letting you know not only are the Leelas of Krishna bewildering, but they're also contradictory. And many living entities can't get over these contradictions and paradoxes because they insist upon seeing Krishna as an ordinary person or a mythological person or just a concept. So Janmashtami, as I like to explain, is always a chance, an opportunity for us to review our understanding of Krishna, not just theoretically, theologically, but in the core of our heart and with our deepest intelligence. Do we really consider Krishna to be the supreme personality of Godhead? And what does that mean? To be the supreme personality of Godhead. He brings up an example about bewilderment that's personal. Now, please note that Kunti Devi has Vatsalya Prem, parental love for Krishna. Not the most intimate personality with parental love for Krishna, but if you read Nectar Devotions, she's in the top 9. She's number 7. Of course, number 1 is Mother Yashoda. Number 2 is Nanda Maharaj. Number 3 is Rohini Devi. So Kunti Devi is acting in the role of Krishna's aunt. And she's reciting some of Krishna's Leelas, his Vrindavan Leelas. He speaks about how Yashoda Mai took a rope and bound Krishna. And Krishna is crying. She's wondering, how is it that fear personified is afraid of Krishna, yet Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda? She confesses bewilderment. Now, you might think, and I love the way Srila Prabhupada explains the point, you might think that Krishna was just pretending to be frightened by Mother Yashoda. Remember, she had the stick in her hand? No, he's really into it. And that's what bewilders Kunti Devi. She knows he's really feeling fear. He's acting like the plaything of his pure devotee. He's totally into it, 100%. He's not just putting on. So she says, this is indeed bewildering. If he was only imitating, she wouldn't have been bewildered. And she gives some possible reasons for Krishna coming. Some say that he appears in this world to glorify the pious kings, especially kings like Yudhisthira. You know how in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that the science of bhakti is actually meant to be passed down by the executive heads of state, because it is the job of the executive heads of state to protect the people from lust, anger, and greed. So she says, some people say that's why Krishna appears to glorify those heads of state who carry out his orders. But then she says, others point out that it's because of Devaki and Vasudev. They wanted you as their son. Still others say it's because of Brahma. He appealed for your presence because the demigods had approached Brahma, informing him that the world is overburdened with sinful people and sinful activities. So she points out some persons say that's the main reason to answer the prayers of Brahma. Finally, she gets to what the acharyas say is the main reason. Not that the other reasons are incorrect, but the main reason, bhaveshmin klishyamananam abhija kama karma be. You have appeared to rejuvenate the processes of bhakti so that conditioned souls can be relieved from their suffering. Relief from suffering is not the prime purpose for Krishna's appearance. It's a side effect. Because as Kunti Devi points out in the next verse, through the processes of bhakti, you can see Krishna. You can associate with Krishna. So that is the main, and relief from suffering is a side effect. Once we accept that Krishna is for real, once we dedicate our life to understanding Krishna, I often point out, have you ever dedicated your life 100% to understanding someone? Sounds too much, doesn't it? Dedicating your whole life for understanding another person? But by understanding Krishna, you get the supreme destination. And what is that supreme destination? How about the backyard of Nanda Maharaj? We're going to go there. Amyaha Nandam Vande Yashya Linde Param Brahma. A very beautiful verse, which points out how some persons read the Vedic literature, the Puranas, Mahabharata. They're afraid of material existence. They want out. But the verse declares, let them do that if they want. But I worship Nanda Maharaj, especially his backyard, because that is where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is crawling on hands and knees. Krishna knows how to attract all kinds of devotees. Some devotees want to love him in a parental way. Others want to love him as a friend. Others want to love him in romance. Krishna knows how to perfectly reciprocate with every devotee. This is something we should think about because we're all heart-starved for perfect reciprocation. So on Sri Krishna Janmashtami, we can rejoice that We're celebrating the appearance day of the one who can perfectly reciprocate everyone's love. In all the relationships. We heard Kunti Devi explain how Krishna appears in order to rejuvenate the bhakti processes, which are especially founded upon hearing and chanting. In other words, Krishna is the king of the content creators. Those of you who have something to do with the internet know the saying, content is king. You want to drive people to your website, you've got to have clickbait and you've got to have content. Well, no one can come anywhere near the unlimited capacity of Krishna for attracting you and immersing you in the supreme content. It's his mercy upon us. His instructions are his mercy upon us also. Sometimes people think, why is Krishna so conceited? He says, do this for me, surrender to me, think about me. Krishna doesn't need anything. He doesn't want anything. He explains that in Bhagavad Gita, Namam Karmani Limpanti. If you give something to Krishna, if you praise Krishna, if you appreciate Krishna, you don't add anything to him. You don't add to his life. He's Om Purnam, perfect and complete. And if you disparage Krishna, if you criticize Krishna, he doesn't lose anything. So then why does he act? Why does he appear in this world? Just to give pleasure to his devotees. You've often heard it explained how Krishna doesn't need to come just for dispatching demons. Climate change, nuclear weapons can all take care of that. And actually, Krishna doesn't need to come to deliver devotees, because if you're actually a devotee, you're already delivered. So then why does Krishna appear? Content. Give you the best to think about, the best to remember, the best to talk about. And talking about Krishna is a big deal in Vrindavan. Krishna is creating content for the Brajbasis to gossip about, to whisper about, to confront Mother Yashoda about. Krishna knows what he's doing, how to plunge his devotees in pools of liquid ecstasy. So there are 11 verses describing the mischievous activities of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan, especially though Krishna. Krishna is the main perpetrator, and Balaram assists. So they began, the two brothers, crawling on the ground on all four, their hands, their knees. In this way, they're not suffering. They're not going through growing pains. They're enjoying their childhood pastimes. First, they enjoy this way, then they enjoy another way and another way. It's unlimited. So as long as we think of Krishna and Balaram crawling over the ground in Vrindavan, we are absorbed in the highest thought. So Krishna has some childhood pastimes that are mixed with Aishvarya. They're sweet. Mixed with Aishvarya, like when he kills Putana. And he has other childhood pastimes that are just unmixed sweetness. So the acharyas point out that both types of Leelas are relishable by devotees. Balaram is called Rama because that means the enjoyer, because he's assisting the supreme enjoyer, Krishna. And that's how Balaram enjoys. Another name for Krishna is Keshava. He's the controller of Brahma, Ka, and Shiva, Isha. So therefore you have Keshava. But Keshava and Rama, Balaram, what are they doing? They're crawling on their hands and knees throughout Vrindavan. And sometimes while doing that, they would hear the ankle bells of other people. They had the most, Krishna and Balaram had the most attractive ankle bells. And they would hear people walking by with their own ankle bells. And so Krishna and Balaram would follow them, thinking, oh, the sound of those ankle bells from them must mean they're our parents. But then they found, oh, these are not our parents. And they got afraid and went home. Does this mean Krishna and Balaram are limited and mistaken? No, they're just enjoying the bliss of being innocent children. They're giving pleasure to the residents of Vrindavan, who would exclaim, oh, just see, Krishna and Balaram are crawling. Then Krishna and Balaram would understand, these are not our parents. They're simply playing the role of children who make mistakes and experience fear. Now, what's on the ground in Vrindavan? Muddy earth mixed with cow dung and cow urine and milk also that have poured from the udders of the cows. Mothers with children, what do you think? Would you allow your babies to crawl on the ground through cow dung, cow urine? I don't know, but Krishna and Balaram loved it. And their mothers would pick them up after Krishna and Balaram crawled in that way. So no, I'll get my sari all dirty. No, their mothers didn't hesitate to pick them up and allow them to be nursed. And while the mothers are nursing Krishna and Balaram, they get unlimited transcendental bliss by seeing little teeth growing in the mouth. So this is all arranged by Yoga Maya. The mother thinks, here is my son. The son thinks, here is my mother. Remember, you're dealing with baby. It's hard to distinguish their affection, although Mother Yashoda is always considered number one. Because these two mothers took both children, Krishna and Balaram, as their own. And sometimes Rohini would nurse Krishna and Yashoda would nurse Balaram. This is how close and intimate is the scene. So Krishna and Balaram's bodies are shining with cosmetics and mud. Sounds contradictory, doesn't it? We talked about the teeth growing, but there are other ways that the whole village of Vrindavan relished. They saw Krishna and Balaram, little Krishna and Balaram, catch hold of the tails of calves not cows, but calves. And the calf would be frightened and start running away, dragging Krishna and Balaram through the mud, the cow dung, and cow urine. So the calf is running away in fear. And then Krishna and Balaram become evidently fearful and they hold on tighter to the calf's tail. So the whole thing just intensifies. The calf is frightened. Then Krishna and Balaram are frightened and they hold on tighter to the tail, and the calf is running here and there. So everyone in Vrindavan's watching this with smiles. So much so that the elder gopis would stop their household affairs. And this becomes a big problem in Braj. No one's getting their housework done. They're always watching Krishna and Balaram doing one thing after another, and they stop and watch, and then they talk about it. And not only do they talk about it, but they go inform Mother Yashoda. So everything is always a big production, whatever little Krishna and Balaram do. Remember, especially in Yashoda Mai's house, everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure. So we'll talk about this in a little while. It's a dilemma for Mother Yashoda. My household duties are all meant directly for Krishna's pleasure. But then again, I'm hearing eager reports from the elder gopis about my son's mischief. And who can resist hearing those reports? So she's caught between the greatest and most wonderful rock and hard place. This is life in Braj. There was some feeling of helplessness among Yashoda, Mai, and Rohini. They felt unable. When a mother feels unable, it's not a good feeling. I can't protect my child. What is my child going to do next? These two brothers are crawling on the ground. There's not just mud and cow dung and cow urine and milk. There are horned cows, fire, animals with claws and teeth, thorns, swords, and other weapons on the ground. You can imagine how paranoid a mother would be. So I like the way Shukadeva Goswami explains how Rohini and Yashoda Mai are fully equipoised in the transcendental ecstasy of what? Are you ready for this? Fully equipoised in the transcendental ecstasy known as the distress of material affection. But there's nothing material about these leelas. But you see, in the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada explains, there are feelings that seem similar to what we experience in the material world. There's anxiety, there's crying, but it's all Satchidananda. It's all saturated. It's all made of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So it looks like material anxiety. Rohini and Yashoda, they're worried. Our sons are crawling on the ground. There's so many sharp things. These boys are so naughty. They want to play with horned creatures like bulls, creatures with sharp teeth like dogs. There's fire. There's knives. There's birds with sharp beaks. And we can't perform our household duties. We have to stop our household duties. And then their minds became disturbed. They became restless. But this anxiety and restlessness, the acharyas point out, nourishes their vatsalya prem, nourishes their parental love. It's a transitory bhava or transitory emotion. It comes and goes. So the mothers are in the equivalent of anxiety. They're in the transcendental equivalent of anxiety. We can't control these boys. They're so fickle. Now they reasoned, they thought, if we would keep the boys always with us, there would be no problem. We can control them, but others can't. But how are we going to do our household duties if we always have these boys at our side? Our house is meant for Krishna's pleasure. So they were, what to do, what to do? Everything in the house is meant for Krishna's pleasure. We can't neglect our household duties, but we can't let these boys out of our sight. But if we keep an eye on them all the time as they go here and there, we don't get our household duties done. So this is a very unsettled state, which nourishes their parental love for Krishna. Fascinating, yes? So again, Amya Nandam Vande Yashalinde Param Brahma. We're focusing on the yard of Nanda Maharaj. That's the base from which Krishna and Balaram go on missions throughout the village. And we're going to hear what their missions are. But first, understand that these two boys are like one body, like the sun and the moon together. They did everything together in their early childhood. They slept together, ate together, dressed together. They engaged in the same activities, like one body in two forms. Sometimes they would, get this, would you allow your child to do this? They would play in the calf pen, the pen where calves are kept, and they would wind up being covered with cow dung up to their head. And become even more beautiful with their hair disheveled. Still, their effulgence would shine, although they're covered up to their head with cow dung. So now, Shukadeva Goswami is increasing in eagerness. He's always eager to talk about Krishna, but now he's going to want to, well, he has to express his ecstatic eagerness. So he calls out to Pritchett Maharaj, Rajarshi, O king, it's time for Krishna and Balaram to walk on their legs without the need of crawling. So you got it. Previous to this, all the pastimes were about crawling. They executed them while crawling. Now it's time for them to walk. And Shukadeva Goswami is already thinking of the later pastimes of the childhood. So he's eager. Let's go there. Let's go there. He's complimenting Pritchett Maharaj. You understand, just like me, how sweet these pastimes are. So now Krishna and Balaram are walking and they have their mates with them, other little cowherd boys. Remember, Krishna is the chief hero in the pastimes, and Balaram provides support. When it comes to stealing butter, Krishna is the chief. Krishna is so attractive that he can attract even Balaram. So Balaram enjoys by assisting the supreme enjoyer. Devotees love to meditate on the restlessness of Krishna's childhood pastimes. He can't seem to sit tight. He's always doing something. He's always inventing newer and newer activities to please, especially the elder gopis, the older ladies of Vrindavan. People in Vrindavan, the elders, would observe Krishna's restlessness, and they would inform Mother Yashoda because they want to chew it. They want to go over it again and again because these what they're seeing has no limit in bliss. And Mother Yashoda would have to stop her household duties and hear all the other ladies' reports. Hear the information. What is Krishna doing now, assisted by Balaram? What are the naughty pastimes? They would think Mother Yashoda didn't see what Krishna and Balaram are doing over here, over there. She's missing out. We have to make sure she gets full happiness. We have to inform her. This would go on and on and on. Coming from the mouths of these elder gopis, the descriptions of Krishna Lila are most attractive. And Shukadeva Goswami is relishing that. Listen to the description of the naughty activities. Krishna would go to the houses of the village people and release the calves before the cows were milked. That meant released. The calves would drink up all the milk from their mothers, and there'd be nothing left for the people. And if the man of the house would show anger, Krishna would just smile. Sometimes Krishna would let loose all the calves who would start drinking all the milk from their mothers to create a diversion. Because while all the cowherd men are scrambling to fix the situation, then Krishna could sneak into their house and steal butter. He's very tactical. He likes stealing curd, butter, and milk. And he likes to distribute it to the monkeys. And then when the monkeys don't take anymore, Krishna says, what's the use of this butter? Even the monkeys don't want it. So then he has to do something else. He starts breaking pots. And if he doesn't see any butter or milk products to steal, he has to enact revenge. What does he do? He pinches the small children in the home, making them cry. So the people were presenting all this to Mother Yashoda. This is what your son is doing. The men would try to catch him. Here is Krishna doing mischief. Here is the butter thief. Better catch him. And Krishna would say, I'm not a thief. You are the thief. They'd be angry, but Krishna would smile, and the cowherd men would just forget everything that happened. But sometimes he would just sit in front of them and eat curd and butter. Like, what are you going to do about it? Now, he's Om Purnam. He's perfect and complete. He has no need to eat butter. But the cowherd people figured out he's not hungry. And even if we try to give him butter so he won't steal, he won't take it. Why? Because he likes stealing. He doesn't want handouts. He doesn't want butter just given to him. He wants to steal it and then distribute it to the monkeys. So in this way, Krishna was always making mischief. The perfection of naughtiness is demonstrated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And remember, can't find any butter, any curd to steal? Then it's time to pinch the little babies, make them cry. The cowherd people also figured out that Krishna steals in two ways, not one way. What are the two ways that Krishna steals? Right in front of your face when you're watching and when you're not watching. He uses his intelligence to devise different ways of stealing. Now, what if he can't find any yogurt, any milk products that he's particularly after on that day? We said he pinches the babies, but maybe he doesn't, maybe the house doesn't have any babies to pinch. So he threatens, all right, no butter, no curd in your house, no babies to pinch. I'm coming tomorrow with a flaming coal in my hand. I'm going to burn down your house. Watch, just you'll see tomorrow. House will burn down with everyone inside. And then somewhere, somehow, in some house, he finds some young babies and scratches them with his nails, making them cry. So he described how he doesn't want handouts. If you try to give him milk products, that doesn't satisfy him. He wants to steal. So the question could be asked, well, so what? What's the loss if he takes a little milk from your house? But the elder gopis point out a detail. He takes the tastiest milk only, the tastiest milk that we set aside for our husbands. And what does he do with butter? He gives it to the monkeys. Why doesn't he eat the butter with his friends? But first he divides it up and gives it to the monkeys. And if the monkeys don't eat, he breaks the pots. This is going on all the time. What else? The elders complained to Mother Yasoda that we try to keep the milk and curd on a swing hanging from the ceiling so Krishna and Balaram can't reach it. But what do? They pile up planks, and standing on the pile of planks, they steal. How do they do it? They have a little stick where they poke holes in the bottom of the butter pot. And then they have a technique mastered in which they open their mouths after they poke a hole in the bottom of the pot as the milk products flow into the mouth. Or sometimes they don't pile up planks. They stack one cowherd boy on the shoulders of another. And then the topmost cowherd boy has his feet on the back of the neck. And so in that way, they make a human ladder and steal. So the question is asked, well, how do they know which pots to attack? And the elder gopis point out, they know the mystic art of just looking at the outside of a pot and then discerning what's inside the pot. Oh, what fun. So all this is always reported to Mother Yasoda, but then you have Krishna looking so innocent and smiling, and everyone forgets about wanting to have him chastised. So they say, even if we put things on high, we talked about that, but not only that, but if we put things in a dark room, that doesn't stop them, because the jewels on their body light up the whole room and they can see what to steal. Well, then Mother Yashoda says, why not take the jewels away? That won't work because their bodies glow. Their bodies are completely effulgent. So you can imagine how much housework is getting done in Braj. Not much at all. Sometimes the gopis, the elder gopis, would look at Krishna sitting there while they're reciting his naughtiness to Mother Yashoda. And then, looking at Krishna's beautiful face, they would enjoy transcendental bliss. And Mother Yashoda would simply smile, and she wouldn't want to chastise her divine child. This turned out to be something Krishna wanted to change. But before we explain that point, there's one more. Krishna, when he wasn't satisfied with the milk products at someone's house, he would find a clean place in the house and apparently, notice I said apparently, pass stool and urine. Now, this becomes a whole topic of discussion among the acharyas. How can the Supreme Personality of Godhead have stool or urine? And they say, no way. What was happening was Krishna was passing illusory stool and urine. Because as a supreme pure, he doesn't have stool or urine. So this is a whole acharya discussion. Every detail in Krishna Lila is relishable, even this one. So there you have Gopi Jana Ballabha, Krishna, the lover of the gopis. And that doesn't only mean the young gopis, but the elder ones too. He invented all these activities just to please them. So we spoke about Krishna not being fully satisfied because he couldn't get his mother to chastise him. She would just smile, hearing about his naughtiness, and Krishna would stand there looking innocent. This is why in the next Leela presented by Shukadeva Goswami, Krishna eats dirt, or maybe he didn't. He wanted to be chastised. He wanted to relish being chastised by his mother because she didn't do it. Even when he was doing all that mischief, she just smiled and had no desire to scold him. He's just thinking, let these stories come to me and I'll drown in the nectar. But Krishna wants to relish being chastised. And so, therefore, the pastime of apparently eating dirt, it's not clearly resolved whether Krishna actually ate dirt or pretended to do so. But that's not the point. Tonight, we're celebrating the appearance of Lord Krishna. And then when we wake up, that day is known as Nanda Mahotsava, the festival of Nanda Maharaj. Nandotsava, or Nanda Maharaj's festival. This was celebrated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Did you know that? The day before Janmashtami, in Navadvip, at the house of Srivas Thakur, Mahaprabhu would announce, we're going to celebrate the festival of Nanda Maharaj. And everyone knew what that meant at the house of Srivas Thakur. It's going to be time for Gopavesh. We're all going to dress as cowherd boys and have fun as cowherd boys. So the next day is what we call Janmashtami. So they had Abhishek and Kirtan all night. And then you see Srila Prabhupada's appearance day is Nandotsava, Nanda Mahotsava. Krishna's born in the middle of the night. And then the morning starts the festival of Nanda Maharaj. So in Navadvip, at the house of Srivas Thakur, Lord Chaitanya's associates would dress as cowherd boys and have those rods on their shoulders with a like a bucket of milk products on each end of the rod, balanced on each end of the rod. The rod would go across the back of their shoulders. And in that way, they would have kirtan, joking, music, and they would start throwing curd and yogurt and turmeric water on everyone, having a riotous time. Advaita Acharya, Srivas Thakur would also get into all the mirth and merriment. Not only did Mahaprabhu celebrate Krishna's appearance in Navadvip, now remember, he's Krishna himself in the role of a devotee celebrating Janmashtami, the appearance of Krishna. So in Jagannath Puri, it's time for Janmashtami. And Lord Chaitanya and his associates would, dressed as cowherd boys, have that rod over the back of their, on top of their shoulders, with the containers of milk products balanced at each end. And they would march to the festival grounds chanting, Hari, Hari. Lord Chaitanya would be dancing in ecstasy as they arrived at the festival ground for celebrating Janmashtami and Nandotsava. Advaita Acharya would announce, as everyone's dressed as cowherd boys, even some associates of Lord Chaitanya, one, Kanani Kutiya, would dress as Nanda Maharaj, and Jagannath Mahiti would dress as Yashoda Mai. And then Lord Chaitanya would offer obeisances to them. You're my parents. And the two, in the role of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, would, in ecstasy, distribute everything they had in their house in charity. So this pleased Lord Chaitanya very much. This is all going on in ecstasy. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is watching. King Prataparudra is watching. And then Advaita Acharya calls out, I have something to say. Please don't be angry when you hear this. I will only accept you as a cowherd boy, he tells Lord Chaitanya, if I see you whirl this big rod. Because that's what cowherd boys do. They have these big sticks and they whirl them. So Lord Chaitanya, in his Gopa Bhava, in his ecstasy of being a Gopa, took the stick and whirled it so inconceivably, threw it up in the air, caught it, whirled it. And then he started whirling on this side, whirling on that side, whirling behind his back, whirling in the front, even whirling it in between his legs. And everyone's just laughing. Then Nityananda gets in action. He grabs a stick and Gaur and Nitai are deep into Gopa Bhava, the ecstasy of being Cowherd boy. So you see that celebrating Janmashtami is coming to us through parampara. I don't think we have anyone who can whirl a stick like Chaitanya Nitai. They were whirling the stick so fast that oh, it couldn't be explained in ordinary terms how fast the stick was whirling. Meanwhile, everyone is soaking everyone with curd and yogurt and turmeric water. In this way, Mahaprabhu and his associates celebrated Janmashtami in both Navadvip and Jagannath Puri. We briefly spoke about Krishna eating dirt or not. And I explained to you that whether he did it or not is not the point. Remember, the cowherd boys reported him to Mother Yashoda because Mother Yashoda had always asked the cowherd boys, keep an eye on Krishna, especially Balaram, because Balaram is the elder by just 15 days. But as I've been explaining in previous classes, in Braj Leela, when Krishna and Balaram are children, they act as equals for the most part. But when at the age of 11, Krishna leaves Vrindavan to go to Mathura and eventually Dwarka, Balaram sometimes assumes an elder role. But now we're in Braj, and evidently Balaram, along with the other cowherd boys, has reported Krishna. And Krishna tells Mother Yashoda, no, they're all lying. They're all conspiring against me. And so you know the rest. He won't tell you the whole Leela tonight. Mother Yashoda says, okay, you say they're lying. Open your mouth. So what does this mean, open your mouth? How is Krishna responding? First of all, if he didn't eat dirt, he knew she would find nothing. But then again, he contains countless universes within him. So he wanted her to show, you're going to find something. It won't be dirt, but you'll find something. Otherwise, it could be, the acharyas point out, that Krishna had eaten some soft earth, but he was confident it's already disappeared from my mouth. So when I open it, she'll see nothing. And of course, you know what happened when Krishna opened his mouth. You know what Mother Yashoda saw. So these are some leelas for us to meditate upon as we celebrate Sri Krishna Janmashtami, coming to us through parampara. Both Rupa and Sanatana Goswami instruct us to celebrate Janmashtami. Rupa Goswami says that of all the holy days, Janmashtami gives him the greatest joy. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur, in his song Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu, points out that by celebrating these festival days, you're mothering your creeper of devotion. You're nursing your creeper of devotion. So let the celebration of Sri Krishna Janmashtami continue. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.